Do it.
No.
He thinks he can do it better.
You were all high and mighty about how you.
No, I want to see this intro now.
Are you ready?
We've been recording.
Oh my God. Okay, are we ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the intro from Renee. Don't ruin it.
Welcome to the House of Champions podcast. You got the whole crew today. Y'all know me. My name's Renee. And who do we have here?
Coach K is in the house today.
We got Coach K in the house, and then this guy. That dude.
That
Sorry.
dude, actually. Your boy, Jamie Stanley, also known as Nick for HOC purposes.
And husband purposes.
And
Yeah,
husband
I don't call him Jamie, but you got the whole crew here today. We are going to talk about cold plunging today. So we are super excited. We have a state-of-the-art cold plunge commercial XL tub right back there in the corner that our members love to hate and love to love. It is the thing that I love and hate most in this world, I think. But we're going to get these guys' reactions on the cold plunge, and we're going to talk through the benefits of it, why we love it, why we have it here. And let's jump in. Okay. So what I'm going to do, guys, is
Let's take the plunge.
let's take the plunge. I like it.
Stop.
Fun
Okay,
fact,
baby.
Keikoa had never plunged before our plunge.
Correct.
So very anxious to get his reactions on these as well. So what we're going to do is we love our plunge, and it is from The Plunge. That's the brand name. So they have a full list of benefits on their website that I'm going to run through here, and I want to get the guys' reactions on whether they experience these benefits, how it has benefited them, what it looks like for their recovery, or maybe some of these don't relate to them. So we'll see. All right. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Do it.
All right, cool. The first benefit that plunge says comes from taking the plunge is elevated energy. I will give this to you first, my love.
To me first.
Do you have elevated energy when you jump out of the cold plunge?
When I jump out of the cold plunge, well, first of all, I delicately step out of the cold plunge.
Yes, because I don't like it when you get water all over the
A
floor.
lot of our
Yeah.
members splash around, and even some of our coaches do.
Fair.
He used to. He's getting better at it. Yeah, absolutely. So it's crazy. Like the first 10, 15, 30 seconds, it's almost like a very pins and needles feeling, very euphoric. It's not a feeling that I've ever experienced before in my life. You feel like you could go and run up a wall, basically. It's crazy because like after that you feel like you'd just be cold and you want to just go lie down somewhere, but it's like your energy and your vitality, and you feel like you could lift a bunch of weight, or you could go and run and sprint and do all that stuff that I don't do really because I'm a wrestler and I feel like I'm an 80-year-old. But as soon as I get out of that, I feel like I'm 10 years younger. So absolutely there's elevated energy for me.
I wish I felt that way when I get out of the plunge.
Good. Differing opinion. Yes, good.
It's still good. I wouldn't say I have the energy to lift every plate here. But after I get out of the plunge, first off, I just feel cooled off in general because it's been deadly hot here in Florida. So overall, because we keep the gym hot, and then if I'm not hot enough during my workout, and then I do the infrared sauna that we have, and then I finally jump into the plunge, and then when I finally get out, it's like I'm refreshed overall. But maybe that's my psychotic brain that I actually feel refreshed and not like, extra energy or something of that sort. But as far as energy though, like once I get out and then once my body comes up to temperature, I will say, yes, I definitely have more energy than I previously did. And overall, because I feel better once my body comes up to temp, because then I feel a lot looser. I just overall feel better. So then it makes me want to do more things and then adds to my energy level. So yes, I would agree.
Have you ever you always do 4 minutes in the plunge?
5.
Okay. You do 4 and 5 now as well,
Correct,
right?
yes.
Did you start at a lower time? Like, did you start at 1 minute, or did you just like
No,
jump
because
right in?
someone picked on me and
He
was like, "Oh, you have to do 4 minutes." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, this is the normal. Like, I thought that was the bar.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's the intro."
Yeah.
And then he was like, no, yeah, I'm gonna make it. Don't worry, I'm not gonna leave details out. Then he's like, "Oh, you have to dunk yourself every minute." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Wow, this is kind of intense." And then it was like, oh, well, you could have did like 30 seconds if you really wanted to, but
he did 4 minutes because he's a champion, and that's what we do here, baby.
Yeah.
yeah.
Plunge actually recommends you start at like 45 degrees for a minute and then
40.
ease yourself into the 39 degrees at 4 minutes. But you are just like,
No.
I thought the only time it can get to 45 degrees is when it's cooling down to
No,
40.
no.
I didn't know it could actually go up.
yeah.
After Kyle gets in, it gets up to like 50.
Run,
At
runs
least.
hot.
He runs,
He runs hot.
baby.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, he's a body guy, so.
true. So talking about the energy levels, you know what's crazy is what it sounds like is I almost have the inverse of you. So I feel really good at first, and then an hour later, like I am struggling to stay awake. Do you ever feel that where you're just kind of dozing off?
No, and maybe this is because I'm a parent. And I'm not saying that you aren't. Let me take that back.
2 times.
Like, yeah, as am I. But I said that wrong. So let me retract and start that over. I don't know if it's just me. This is how my brain works because I know you guys generally have as early of a bedtime as you possibly can because you guys get up early. I get home and then my kids are sleeping. So this is like my only quiet time of the day because sometimes I'm here all day. So then I might stay up until like midnight, 1 a.m.
What is
just
that?
yeah. But I also don't get up at 5.
True.
You know, then I get up closer to 8 then. So I get kind of thrown out of whack. So I'm never like I've never been tired. You know, even once I come up to temp, I've never had that. But I think it's also because you get up so much earlier. So now maybe that was just a big rush for you, and
Yeah,
you're towards the end of your day.
and usually it falls probably at that 2-3 o'clock. So I guess it kind of coincides with that. Maybe it just elevates that.
Yeah, I think it's just the clock.
Plunge, we need to know. Help us.
Yeah.
Help us figure this out.
What's
but
wrong
no,
with our
They just
clocks?
respond, you're idiot. You're an idiot.
how do you guys not know this?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move to the next one.
Yep.
This next one is the reason we put it in the building.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping we lead to good answers here, guys. No pressure. Recovery and performance. So cold plunge benefits extend beyond mental and chemical. Sports medicine has utilized cold therapy for years to help the active recovery of your muscles.
Start with you, my love.
Is that your Renee impression?
That was it on?
You need to be a lot meaner.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the depends.
You should have done the intro. You probably would have done it better than Renee. Just kidding, sweetie. Recovery and performance.
It's a good thing I'm in the middle, by the way.
This is on purpose. Design. Just kidding.
This is actually not a podcast at all. It's just therapy.
And you guys are here for it, baby, whether you want to or not. Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of like aches and like a lot of in my joints, especially when I don't get very good sleep. You know, whether it's tendonitis or, you know, my knee aches or just my back hurts from bumping, all the stupid stuff that we do in the wrestling ring. And I feel like once I get into that for a sustained, I guess maybe 3-4 days in a row by the end of the week, when I should feel the most worn down, I do feel a lot better just because, you know, it's like the old saying, you know, put ice on it, you know, and it's like that times a million. So it really has helped me with my my recovery as far as not feeling the aches and pains in my joints as much as I probably would.
So I'll tell two quick stories about recovery. I already said, you know,
You don't know quick stories.
I do know quick stories.
It was a 10-minute promo, guys.
Don't get me started on 10-minute promos. Anywho, so the first time that I ever plunged, like I said, once your body comes up to temperature, you definitely feel much better. I was already pretty worn down that week. I don't remember what was going on that week, but I vividly remember being pretty sore, moving slow. And then I did the cold plunge for the first time ever. And about an hour later, when we were getting ready, I think it was like one of our first days of training on top of it. And then once we got going, I realized like out of nowhere, I'm like, I'm not hurting. Like, and I'm not like slowly moving anymore. Like, so it was pretty fast recovery. And then actually Jason, this isn't my story, but it's Jason Ayers' story. So the first time that Jason Ayers, the WWE SmackDown referee, when he came here with his son and he did the plunge for the first time, he only did a minute. Like that's all he could bear, which is perfectly fine. A lot of people do way less than
I mean,
start.
George only made it like
6
2 seconds. Sorry,
If that.
George.
Without his toes.
Y'all get to meet George.
So he did a minute and then he ended up texting me that night and he said, all right, I get it and I'm addicted. And I was even surprised because it was still new to me at that point, you know, so only getting in there for a minute and then realizing how much better you feel after that was insane to me.
And how crazy is it? Like how simple Just get in,
Just
some
sit in
cold,
there.
get in some cold water. Like we have all these high-tech supplements and, which, those have their place too, but all these different biohacking things, but it's like, just get in some cold water, get some really cold water and sit there for 5 minutes and then see how you feel.
Gosh, you make it sound so easy.
Well,
Come on, try it and realize it's not, right?
yes, yes. Which, by the way, if you are a member of the House of Champions, cold plunge is included.
It is included and they use it a lot.
Yes.
All right, on to the next one. This one is like a personal favorite for me. So, immune support. I'm going to read this really quick. Being immersed in cold water stimulates, oh, I can't say that. Electrolytes? I should have read this beforehand.
Electrolyte?
Nope.
No.
The white blood cells, there we go, that help fight off sicknesses. It also causes the lymphatic system to contract, forcing fluid through the lymph nodes. This process aids in detoxing the body and strengthening your immune system.
That word looks like leukocytes.
There we go. That sounds appropriate. Yeah.
That's just my guess though, because I want to like circle back to this and be like, I'm gonna ask
Don't
Siri
quote us.
later.
A study has shown to substantially lower upper respiratory tract infections. So people should have been plunging during COVID. We won't take this podcast there, but that's what I hear from that.
So, you said this is one of your personal favorites. Go ahead and share.
Yeah. So I plunge too. How many times am I going to say on this podcast that I'm not a wrestler? But I'm not. I'm a mom.
Yet.
No, I'm a mom. I think that's maybe like higher intense than wrestling, to be honest. But I have started plunging as well. And I do feel like I have seen the benefit of this and just having more resilience. I mean, we have a 4-year-old and an almost 2-year-old, both in school and daycare. And I mean, they're
Dirty,
just
stinky, full of germs.
they bring everything home. And I feel like once I've started doing this, I'm going to knock on wood, but I feel like I haven't gotten sick.
If you remember, after all of my long tapings or, the week-long deals, or whenever I have an early flight home, after a late night, I always come home and I always get sick.
Yep.
And just now thinking about this, I feel like that hasn't happened since I've plunged.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it either.
Yeah.
He's looking up this word.
It was leukocyte.
There you go.
I read right.
Well done.
Proud of you.
I read.
Well done.
Hey, there we go. That's a start.
But is your immune system better from the plunge?
So I'm gonna be full transparent. So I've always had a good immune system. So, but
Bragger.
I feel like my true test will be this winter. So normally I get like a cold or like I'm just out for like a week with something, and it normally comes around winter, and it's just that. So if I skip this winter without having it, but I will say I haven't even felt sick since we've opened the doors. So if that's been helping, awesome.
Follow-up question in a few months.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, on to the next one. Momentum. So very excited to see what you guys say to this, but cold plunging has shown the ability to increase your baseline dopamine. Dopamine is the molecule in our brain and body that is linked to motivation. It says it can enhance our depth of focus and lower our threshold for taking action towards our specific goals. Okay, Goa, you want to start?
Honey. Sweetheart.
Again, full transparent. I don't know if it's helped me focus more on goals. I mean, look at it, and I think it's just because we're on the wrestler side. So like, and Nick's been doing this for quite a while now. I've been doing it for quite a while. So you fall into that category of like, just certain people, like they see their goals and then they just go and do it. I will say on top of it, there are definitely days where it's extremely cold and it's painful. And then there's other days where I'm like, oh, that was refreshing, but I still do it. So again, if it's another thing that's been helping me and I'm not realizing it, awesome. But the goals things has always been pretty easy.
Yeah. When you talked about dopamine, I definitely, it's kind of what I touched on earlier. It's like right after you get out, it's almost like a high. And I think it's like a euphoric feeling. And
that I feel.
Yeah. I think that's the dopamine. Is that what you're talking about? Like in the first probably 5 minutes, right before the kind of cold sets in, because you get out and you're not really cold quite yet until maybe a minute or two later. And then you're like, oh shoot, I need to go get warm because this isn't good. And yeah, I think that for that first minute, and even when I'm sitting in it, I notice like it's kind of weird. It's almost like a high feeling, like you kind of feel lightheaded, not in a bad way, but kind of lightheaded and just, I guess not necessarily lightheaded, but just like light, if that makes sense. So that's definitely, I feel like the dopamine.
Were you going to say something?
I lost it.
Okay. Well, I was going to say for myself specifically,
Cold helps. Cold plunge helps with memory too.
No, it don't. No, it absolutely don't. You know what helps? Not getting hit in the ring.
yeah, that's true. You guys get hit in the head a lot.
That'll be a different podcast.
Yeah, there we go. Now, I was going to say personally, I feel like when I start my day with this, before I jump into my 13 long day of conference calls, which is a shoot, like that really happens. I feel like my day is set up for success a lot better, and my focus and my productivity is more effective for that day. So trying to like get in here and do the cold plunge prior, it just gets my head straight. So I personally feel like
I wish I could like start the day that way.
you have to buy one for your house.
They're only.
Listen, I have
Get like a buy one get one.
I have the House of Champion owners up my butt about Disney passes. But anywho, yeah. So I'm wondering. I'm sure it's an absolute rush where you can literally roll out of bed, hop in there, and then you're awake out of nowhere. I'm sure it absolutely is, because I would rather do that than drop down 350 milligrams of caffeine as soon as I wake up to do anything. But I generally do the plunge at least early afternoon or mid afternoon. So I'm not too sure, but I can imagine on your end.
Yeah, no.
And it is highly recommended to do it first thing in the morning. I've been doing cold showers for like 3 years now, but it's Florida, so cold showers. Obviously, that's nothing compared to this, but they do talk about the benefits of doing something very cold as soon as you wake up within the first at least half hour, definitely 15 minutes.
So this next one I think is a no-brainer. We've already touched on it a few times, but boosted mood. Like you just feel better. You're happier. There's a lot of evidence that hormone imbalance can contribute to depression, meaning that a cold plunge might help reduce depression and improve overall mood. I can attest to this. Not only am I more efficient, I feel like it puts me in a better mood. Just simple as that. What about you guys?
Honey,
Yes, dear.
you go first.
Aw, you're a sweetheart.
This is what I have to deal with.
I don't know if it touches on this later, but I guess I'll just do it now. Just the fact that like you did something hard, I think that is really rewarding, and a lot of people can't do it, let alone for 4 or 5 minutes. And a lot of people, you describe it to them, and they're like, "Oh, there's no way I could do that," which goes back to people can do a lot more than they think they can. But once again, like Renee, we talk about this all the time about how it's never something that we're like, yeah, I can't wait to cold plunge.
No.
I have to sit outside of it and say, you can do hard things to myself. I have to give myself positive affirmations before I jump in there every single time. And I've been doing it for a year now.
I feel like there's a TikTok series maybe on this of like the thoughts that go through your mind before you get in the cold plunge. Because every single little thing that I never would have wanted to do before, I decide it's time to do it then, just to delay
I really
the
need to
time.
clean my car right now. Yeah, definitely.
Luckily for us specifically, and I'm sure maybe this will help others, since we keep time, and then our timer even has a countdown timer. So I think for me mentally, when I get ready to do it, having that 10-second count, and like once you click it, it's like, okay, well, I started the timer. Like, can I turn it off? Yeah, I absolutely can. But something about my brain mentally, once I see the countdown timer, I'm like, okay, it's out of my hands at this point. So once I get to that like 3 seconds left, it's like, okay, step in because your timer's about to start. So then it like kind of forces me to. The only time I've ever been like, I want a cold plunge is after we're done training and it's an advanced day and we just trained for 3 hours, and I probably had 2 other trainees, before that. So I actually trained for like 6 hours that day. And then I'm like, I need to do this so I can go home.
What's crazy is because I'll cold plunge after the sauna.
Yeah.
Sauna for all the Finnish people out there. Have to throw that in.
Do we have a high market in Finland right now?
I don't know.
Chris, what is our
Is this-
Finnish demographic?
Can we get those?
He said 0.
Can we get accurate numbers?
Anyway, when I get out of the sauna, appropriate. I'm sitting there staring at it. I'm like, I cannot wait to get in there. Like, it's gonna feel so good. And still, the second I get out and I step up to that tub, nope, my brain starts talking me out of it, which is the fight or flight instinct, because you've been in it. And we'll talk about this on the end, but it's not that fun when you're in it.
No, and I'll, just like Keiko had pointed out earlier, there are some days where it just feels awesome because you just hit brutal workout, or you just got done training, or you just sat in the sauna at 175 degrees for 20 minutes and you're like, I'm ready to just live in this thing.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make it necessarily easier, but it's better than coming in and not doing anything and jumping straight into the tub, which would be first thing in the morning. So I bet it's a lot harder first
Oh,
thing
yeah.
in the morning.
I would equivalent it to like when somebody is trying to take their diet like serious. Monday morning, you are always ready to attack that thing. Like you're ready to be like, okay, I got my meals, and like they're packed, they're cooked, they're packed. Like I'm ready to follow this to a T. And then by like Wednesday or Thursday, you're like, this is disgusting. I don't want this at all. I want pizza. I want wings. It's essentially the same. Like there are days where I am ready, like you said, I'm ready to live in there. And then there's other days where I'm like, this is the last thing I want to do.
But discipline.
But
Standard over feelings.
Yeah. Motivation ain't always there. But apparently cold plunge helps with that. So
Helps with motivation.
Yeah. All right. The next two I'm going to couple together: pain relief and stress relief. We already touched on pain really in the recovery, but how about stress relief? I'm going to start this. Just kidding. Because being a mom, owning the business, working a full-time job, stress is a thing in my life. Absolutely. And 100% this sauna and cold plunge have helped me alleviate stress, start my day off right, get my mind right. I mean, we talk about this all the time at House of Champions, but it starts up here, starts in your brain. And you need to think it, because you can't be answering to your feelings, because your feelings lie to you. So if you don't feel like doing something that day, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So yes, being disciplined and getting in the cold plunge is 100% help my stress relief anyway.
Sweetie pie?
Yeah, I think that it definitely, just like working out, whatever your anchor is, whether it's working out or going for a jog or playing piano or, whatever it is, a physical outlet, I think, to get that stress relief. And this is a painful, but a very good way to do that.
Yeah, cold plunge is not my outlet at all. I will say though, like again, going back to like parenting. So Renee, I know, you could relate to this. I feel like with kids, especially, like you always have a plan for the day, like you're ready to attack this day, and then a kid can just like mess everything up because if they get sick at daycare and then you got to pick them up, or they're moody that day, like your whole day just gets kind of thrown out of whack. So I do overall just feel better when I have the plan, I stick to it, and then it's like, okay, I'm ready to do this. You get in, you get out, and you're like, okay, I was able to accomplish it, and nothing got thrown out of whack. But overall, as far as like from positivity and putting you in a better mood, I mean, it always does for me, but it's definitely not my outlet.
Yeah. All right, last one. Better sleep. Has it helped you sleep better?
It hasn't necessarily helped me sleep better. Just because I have trouble sleeping sometimes. I'll preface this. Okay, so I go to sleep very easily, but sometimes I wake up and then I have trouble going back to sleep. So I think it's more of maybe my nighttime routine. Maybe if I did cold plunge later in the day, but I haven't seen a lot of effects from the cold plunge as far as my sleep and recovery.
Yeah, maybe because we don't plunge at night before bed. Yeah.
Definitely.
I've never had issues with sleeping. I do have similar, like there's some times where I'm like, all right, that took me a little bit longer to fall asleep. Other times I'll do what Nick said, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and then my brain's like running 100 miles an hour. But I have other things that help me with that. But as far as like improved sleep, I can't answer that. I've always slept pretty good. I'm pretty good pro at that.
Yeah, I also have never had issues with sleep. Sorry. I feel like there's two types of people and they marry each other. So I'm over there just sawing logs and Nick can't sleep. So I'm not quite sure either. I do feel like I sleep good after I do it, but I've also never had issues with sleep. All right, we've made it through the benefits. I think the last thing I wanted to ask is, how do you get through a cold plunge?
Darling.
Because it is not easy.
No, it's definitely not. And especially after I've done it so many times, and it's still hard at times. But the way that I always do it is I break it down into parts. So if I do 4 minutes,
It's like cardio.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I only have to do this so many more times. Like, so that first minute, I'm not saying is easy, but the first minute's obviously the easiest out of the other three if you do 4 minutes. And then once you hit halfway, and I'll premise this to like when it's the absolute worst, and I do not want to do this. By 2 minutes, my feet are in pain. I don't want to do this anymore. But now I'm like, well, I'm already halfway. Like I just need to do this one more time. And then once it gets to that 3 minutes, I'm like, all right, well now I only have a minute left. Like a minute's nothing. Like so that's how my brain.
So that's your mental mind game you play with
Yeah,
yourself.
I just have to trick myself, but it's not really tricking. It's clearly in front of me.
For me, it's just focusing on my breathing, and I break it down as well. So like the first minute, I'll probably get 8 deep breaths, and then each minute after that, I try to get it in a less amount of breath. So like the second minute, I'll do 6 breaths. Third and fourth minute, maybe I'll do 4 breaths, and then the fifth, the final minute, if you do 5, I'll have it down to maybe even 3 or 2 deep, really long breaths, to where I'm just super like in the zone and zen about it, and just kind of zoned out. So that's the way I do it. Obviously, like I count everything, so why not count my breaths while I'm in the cold plunge? So that's how I get through it. I break it into pieces, but I also count my breath, which I think makes it go faster for me.
So I have a question about that then. So have you, because you used to do 4 minutes, now you generally do 5.
Mhm.
Have you seen any difference of benefits between the 4 and the 5 minutes?
I don't know if benefits, but back to what you said about the second minute is like the worst for you. I don't feel like the sting and the pain until actually the 5th minute. So, which I didn't feel that before in the 4th minute. So,
Well,
I feel like my fingers and my toes and all that stuff. Like I used to be like those don't really, but by that 4, maybe 4.5 minutes, I definitely am feeling that, to where I'm like, okay, I could get out of here now.
So it's more of a tolerance thing.
Yeah.
Like you added that minute just because you're like, well, this isn't challenging for me anymore.
Which is crazy because you think like you'd get used to it, but like no,
No.
that does not happen. It just gets worse.
Because I changed from 4 to 5, and I did it a couple times, and I was like, it seems like it just adds a minute for me. Like I wasn't seeing like a dramatic difference by any means. So I was like, I'm just gonna stick with 4.
I know that they do talk about like, diminishing returns. Like it's not like, well, 4 minutes is good, so I'll sit in there for 40. It's not going to make you Superman.
Correct.
At least I don't think so. I haven't tried yet. Maybe that's next.
No.
Maybe that's a podcast.
No.
What about you, Renee?
I was laughing and smiling when you were talking about you counting, because 1, you've never told me that, and 2, I'm not surprised because you do count everything. So I was giggling because I'm like, well, of course he counts it. I don't do any of that. My method is face away from the timer. Don't look at it once and just wait for it to beep.
Okay.
If I stare at the clock, it will go slow.
Good.
And I just need to find my happy place on a beach with a drink in my hand and just go there and wait for that sucker to be done.
How many times do you close your eyes and you're on the beach, but you're freaking out on the beach because you're like that 4 minutes should have been up by now?
So
how much does your brain?
Yeah, good question. So sometimes my brain goes there, and I love David Goggins. And I will pull from the cookie jar, is what he says. And I'm like, the minute I start feeling that way, what I will tell myself is, nobody does this. You are in the 1%. You are doing hard things. You can get through this. And I basically talk myself up. I put myself over. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's what you need. Another question for both of y'all: does the 4 minutes drag or does it fly by?
Flies by.
Does it?
Yeah, 4 pretty much flies by, except for those one-off days that you're not mentally there, but you still do it.
Cool. Well, I mean, I think that'll wrap it for us today, but we'd love to.
It's a very cool podcast.
And if anybody is interested, once again, in trying out the plunge or checking out the House of Champions, hit us up on Instagram at @thehawk_pro. Check out our website, www.thehawkpro.com, THEHOCPRO.com. We'll answer it. We're on these are the faces you see on the other end of those. So reach out. Your first class is always free, and you can come try out the plunge.
Yeah, we might put out some videos of us doing the plunge too, so stay tuned for that.
Ooh, yeah,
It's on our story daily.
it is. All right, y'all. Be good.